Hey, how's it going everyone? This is White Pointer, and I wanted to make some videos about weird video game titles that are amusing in some way. This is the second video in this series, so make sure you check out part 1 if you haven't done so already. For the purposes of these videos, I'm deliberately omitting mobile games because there's so many of those verby noun type of titles on that platform that it just wouldn't make for an interesting video. So it also goes without saying that this is just meant to be a bit of stupid fun, because who doesn't like some stupid fun now and then? So let's start this video with whatever this is. Look, the word infinite is thrown around a lot these days, usually not in a context that makes a lot of sense. But the game that takes that to the next level is definitely Infinite Undiscovery. In just 2 words, we learn a lot about whoever came up with this ridiculous title. For a start, Undiscovery is not a word. Go ahead, look it up on dictionary.com right now if you don't believe me. Discovery is a word. Undiscovered is a word, but that doesn't mean you can combine them to make a real word. Even in this modern internet age where we are seeing words like lol and YOLO added to the dictionary, we still don't have undiscovery in there. You know why? Because it doesn't mean anything. If something is discovered, you can't undiscover it. It makes no sense, it's stupid. It's simply not a word the English language needs. How would you even use it in the real sentence? We have made an important undiscovery here. No, just no. Stick the word infinite in front of it, and now you have an infinite lot of, well, I don't know what. An infinite lot of words that make no sense? Look, let's assume for a moment that there is an alternate parallel universe out there where time flows backwards, so undiscovery might make sense. Even if this alternate parallel universe existed, so things get undiscovered as you go backwards in time, the number of things that can be undiscovered is still most definitely finite. There's only so many things we as a human race have discovered. While the total number of things we have discovered so far is indeed impressive, it's still a finite number and certainly not infinite. So, these 2 simple words, where one of them isn't even a word, make no sense whichever way you look at it. This hurts my brain.
My brain hurts!
The mid-90s saw the release of systems such as the Nintendo 64, Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn, amongst others, that had 3D processing power, so it was a pretty experimental time for game developers as they tried to figure out how to design good 3D games. Apparently it was also an experimental time for naming games as well, as the PlayStation JRPG Beyond the Beyond demonstrates. That was actually made by the same developer behind the highly regarded Shining Force games. The game was mostly poorly received on its release, although it has developed a bit more of a following in the years since then. It didn't really do anything wrong, but it wasn't exactly the leap gamers were expecting with the jump to 32-bit consoles. The game played more like a generic 16-bit RPG for the most part. Beyond the Beyond is a pretty uninspiring moniker. While I was researching this, I actually searched for a long time trying to find out if there was some kind of meaning behind the title, but I found nothing. I can only really guess at what Beyond the Beyond is supposed to mean, and I'm probably going to be wrong about it, but the phrase the beyond or the great beyond is sometimes used as an idiom to mean the afterlife, so using beyond as a preposition before that might mean something like the farther side of the afterlife. I'm kinda clutching at straws on this one to try to make sense of it, so if anyone has any other ideas, I'm open to suggestions. The Japanese version of the game actually carried the subtitle and was called Beyond the Beyond to Faraway Canaan, but there's no location in the game called Canaan, so this is even more confusing.
That does not make sense!
No translation errors or anything like that are to blame here. It is what it is, and I'm sure Beyond the Beyond has left gamers scratching their heads about the meaning of the title for a long time. Not to let a bewildering title go to waste, however, Beyond the Beyond was also the name of a manga series, completely unrelated to this game, published between 2004 and 2008.
Welcome to Irritating Stick!
Now here's a game to shake a stick at. Huh? See what I did there? Huh? Irritating Stick is a dumb name for a game. Let's just get that out there right now. It somehow simultaneously tells you what the game might be about, while not telling you anything about what the game is about. So, for those of you who haven't played it, I'll explain what the premise is. You remember those high school experiments you used to make where you had a maze of wire and you needed to get a metal ring from one side to the other without touching the wire? That's essentially what Irritating Stick is. It's that concept in video game form and cranked up in classic Japanese style. You have a stick that's apparently pulsing with 100,000 volts of electricity, and you need to move it from one end of the course to the other within the time limit without touching anything, including the sides of the course or any obstacles in it. If you touch anything, you'll fail the course, and the game will zap you by sending a large vibration to your controller. It's actually based on the Japanese game show where the contestants get real-life electric shocks when they mess up. The game is usually associated with being far more frustrating than fun though. I suppose when you look at it in context, Irritating Stick doesn't sound quite as stupid of a title as it initially does, but it's not really the stick you're going to get irritated at here, it's the game itself, and probably the announcer too. If you think this title is bad, consider for a moment that it could have actually been even worse. The Japanese word here used for irritating could be more closely translated as vibrating, and that is a rabbit hole I am not going down. So the last game I'll be covering in this video is Dragon Wang.
Nice.
Dragon Wang. This was a game released by Sega in 1985 for the SG-1000, Sega's first home console. It may surprise you to know, and maybe disappoint you a bit, that this is not a game about the reproductive organs of dragons. You played as the titular character Dragon Wang, or D-Wang as he was called in the game, in a side-scrolling beat-em-up of sorts. The game itself, though, was pretty bad, with wonky unresponsive controls, constantly respawning enemies, and some weird multi-level platforming. I guess you really needed to channel your inner Wang to defeat your foes in this game.
And I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Now let's see how well you handle it.
Why the title Dragon Wang? Who knows. It's probably simply a case of bad translation from Japanese, or English as it's often known as the character is probably based on Jackie Chan's character Thomas from the film Wheels or Meals. Jackie Chan is Chinese, so they went with the Chinese word Wang, which means king, but unfortunately, that's not what it means in English. It's possible you haven't heard of Dragon Wang, as this game was a Japan-only release, but you may have heard of its sequel, released on the Sega Master System, called Kung Fu Kid, even though you apparently play as the same character. Thank goodness they didn't call it Kung Fu Wang. So there you go, there's a bunch more weird and funny video game titles. This is going to be a series, so I'll be back with another video featuring more weirdness. Make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with my content so you know when it goes live. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, it really helps a lot, and drop me some comments below if you have any suggestions on other odd video game titles I can cover. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.